Welcome back to the channel, Exile. In this week's video we will be presenting our early league guide for Artillery Ballista. Before this league even started, we kinda had a hunch this would be a good build. We've made a couple of videos on that and upgrade progression, but this is the full guide where we're gonna explain 3 different versions and some distinct variations within those versions for Artillery Ballista for a new player. Now keep in mind, fair is fair, we cannot level this at level 1. Up until level 31 you're going to be using different skills. There are some really good warrior leveling guides out there on YouTube, so we're not going to reinvent the wheel. I'll link some of them in the video description. For now, first I'm going to show you guys a showcase on how this build performs in tier 15s and some of the bosses of those maps. After that, we're going to dive right into the mechanics, in the differences that you can build it at, the costs of the build, etc. As always, this video is chopped up in these neat little sections in the timeline below, so feel free to skip to whatever portion of the video is most interesting for you. With that said, let's take a look at the showcase, guys. Let's go.
Yeah.
And what you're really saying then is that you want flasks to do way less regeneration, and you want regeneration to be controlled way more in general, and then have a more attrition-based gameplay style. And that kind of just isn't a PoE way of doing things.
Well,
first I want to get into the elemental options, because we have a fire option, we have a cold option, and we have a lightning option, each with their own pros and cons. So let's get into that first. First off, whether you play the cold version, the lightning version, or the fire version, you're going to have to make sure that when you use one of those infusion supports, it's the right one. Meaning, if I use a pair of gloves like this, which is really high life with attack speed, for the fire version, I need to have the fire infusion there. If I'm playing the cold version with the blue flame, I need to have the cold infusion there. If fire infusion is still there, there is no damage increase. Even though there is a conversion that takes place, it doesn't count the fire infusion damage first. It gets calculated after. So keep that in mind. So same thing for lightning infusion with the lightning options. So why 3 different versions, and what are the pros and cons? Okay, so first off, the cold version. The cold version's obvious advantage is freeze. You can freeze the screen, freeze certain bosses. It's gonna help you stay safe, especially if you don't have high life on your gear yet and all that kind of stuff. This is an easy way to get going. But at a certain point you realize that you're gonna need more life. And these pairs of gloves just don't provide life. There's no attack speed on it, there's no life on it. So my next phase was going pure fire. And as you can see, that is 230 life on there in total, compared to 80 life on that. That is a big difference. On top of that, there is a 16% attack speed increase on the fire version gloves, because if we don't convert, it is automatically fire. So this was my second version, until Altergox on stream Twitch asked me, have you thought about making this a lightning build? Thanks to Altergox, we started looking for Balako's Vice, and what it does is 100% of fire damage gets converted to lightning damage. But here's the thing, these things actually have attack speed and high strength, and high dex. Now because we use a companion, we're gonna need dex somewhere. Most of that came from the tree. So it's deceiving what you're looking at here. Basically it's plus 57 strength. And as we all know, you point at your strength, 1 strength, 2 life. That's 114 life on there. It's a close second in terms of both the attack speed that it has and the additional life that we can scale from here. So there are a couple more advantages of each of these. If you go fire, you can use oil grenade for an additional exposure, right? So that means fire exposure, easy. If you go cold version, you can go frost bomb for an additional exposure, which is pretty clear as well. But once you go for lightning, you realize I can shock enemies pretty damn hard. And you can do magnitude of shock you inflict on your duels, as you will see in the PoB, and all of a sudden you've got a 45% shock straight up, combined with obviously the voltaic mark that we have right here, and that is a lot of extra damage, which is why I'm going for the shock version in the PoB. But just know all these options are open, and it's up to you whether you choose fire, cold, or lightning. I would say in the beginning, when the gear isn't strong enough, the cold and the extra chill and freeze it gives you is very nice. The fire has the most possible life scaling you could get, and I think the lightning has the most possible damage, while having a close second amount of life. Personally, this is my favorite. Okay, next up I want to look at the differences between going max AoE and going max damage with less AoE, and what that entails. Depending on whether you will be using your fire version, your cold version, or your lightning version, that means one of the infusions, instead of reach, magnified effect turned into concentrated effect. The paper difference between the two means this setup is 50% more damage, the lightning infusion and the concentrated effect, versus the reach and magnified effect. But there's this interesting thing going on with overlap that is really hard to quantify and relies on quite a few variables, such as arena size, boss hitbox and all that kind of stuff, where sometimes it feels like the damage is almost equal, even though on paper and on PoB it clearly is not. For me personally, the AoE trumps everything, because there's no denying that once I clear a map, the AoE is just the better option. Now I thought that if I just take all the AoE nodes here and over here, that I could counteract the negative of the concentrated effect and have the highest possible single target, which seems to be the case. But there's just this thing going on that's hard to quantify with all the AoE. I never knew reach existed, but thanks to FabJam, he suggested this on Twitch, and he said just do reach and mag effect and see what happens. And that is what you saw in the showcase, the crazy rain of Armageddon that is raining down and just destroying content left and right while you just mosey your way through the maps. It is an enjoyment to play, guys. For me, the personal pick, go for AoE. If you don't need it at the bosses, you feel you're alright, just keep the AoE, guys. Once you get to Arbiter or something like that, yeah, swap out, get that extra damage. Whether you go full AoE and your eyes can handle it, and your screen, and your GPU, or whether you go for more damage with a little less clear, but just more power versus those bosses and less screen aid, I leave that up to you guys. Next up, let's take a look at the PoB and the deep written guide therein. Alright, as you can see, we still have issues showing damage in PoB. I don't know why that is. It was the same issue last league. Somehow Artillery Ballista and importing damage just isn't working. If anybody has a trick for that, let me know and send me the revised PoB so I can import it. But for damage numbers, guys, please check the showcase as is provided in this video. It'll show you anything and everything you need to know whether this build is for you, yes or no. A couple of things first. For a weapon, I would highly recommend, guys, you go for a +6 with elemental damage with attacks. Now, in the notes, I'm explaining a couple of things about pricing, about maybe recombining versus buying, yes or no, about a +6 versus a +7. Just know that each level of your projectile gems increases your damage by about 10%. For your helmet, really quickly, a lot of life, as you can see, strength as high as you can get it. This one isn't great, but still pretty good. And high fire ras or high chaos ras, depending on whether you can get it on the rest of your gear. For an optional corruption, go for 20% increased life regeneration rate. For our glass, we are going to go for the unique Valakus Vice. What we want on there is the highest possible strength dex combo, because we do need dex, like we said before, for our companion, for our weapon and for our skill. So not needing to grab it on the tree means we actually have 57 strength there, 57 times 2, 114 life hidden in those gloves. Obviously, we use a normal body armor. As you can see, PoB yet has to implement the imports of the Smith of Kitava mods on there, which is why we've done that manually under the configuration right over here. It's all manually imported to reflect what you see in-game. Obviously, you want to go for an ornate plate for the regeneration rate, and you want to slam a third socket in there if you can. For your boots, guys, same thing. High movement speed, high life, strength if you can get it, and either high fire ras or high chaos ras, depending on your needs. Keep in mind, if you get up to 240 ras, then you will have 90, 90, 90. If you have 200 fire ras, you only have 89, 90, 90. It's up to you whether you think that's worth it. Greater Desert. Right, we're gonna lose a little bit of life there, but to prove a point, you could put this, go to that 240, accept, and setting it up exactly so means you take 10% less fire damage at the cost of losing like 45 life. It's up to you whether you think that's acceptable. Let's go back. Let's take a look at your amulet. So what you want on there is either +2 or +3. This happens to be a +3, very good amulet. +2 will do, is about the diff. You want high life on there, high fire resistance, here we go again, or chaos, depending on what you get on the rest of your gear. And for the annoyance, please check the notes, we're gonna go over them real quickly in a sec. For your rings, high life, dex or strength, like I said, we need both of them for life scaling. You want high fire ras, high chaos ras, it all depends on your budget and how you can mix and match the resistances on the rest of your gear on what you need. Try and be patient before you buy something, because you might end up saving quite a bit of exiles in not having to pull the trigger at your last item because you weren't diligent enough to check your resistances while upgrading. So that's a very good tip there. Same thing for the Amethyst Ring. You know, we got Fire, Chaos, Ras on there, life. A little bit of int, not needed at all. Preferred if that was strength. For your belt, same story, right? We see the theme here. A lot of life, a lot of strength if we can get it. Fire resistance or Chaos Ras. Right now I'm just using a thawing charm because I don't like to be frozen. I would say add an additional stun charm if you can get it. It's in the notes as well. And for flasks, just make sure you have as much recovery as you can, because flasks are actually kind of good right now, right? We have a really low life pool, relatively speaking, to what we had last league with the Gemling Legionnaire, but we have an insane amount of resistances, so our mitigation is pretty much the same as the Gemling had. Except we have that on a much lower life pool, meaning that click on that life flask, all of a sudden it matters. It does something for you, right? Because 1450 life on a 3000 pool or on a 10,000 pool, it's not the same. We don't need it, blood magic. And then we use 4 different jewels. Now here we have some basic ones with attack speed and magnitude of shock because we are shocking. But there's obviously the option as well for you to go for something like this, which has the attack speed, projectile damage, magnitude of shock, and there are many more modifiers that you can go for. Check the notes which those are. I actually put a trade link here as well for the jewels. Well, basically attack speed, magnitude, shock is what you want as a base, and then attack damage, elemental damage, lightning damage, projectile damage, damage with crossbows, or elemental damage with attacks. It all depends on your budget. And that's it for the gear. Let's take a look at the skills. I have made double sections here. This is the main setup I'm using. Check the video for details as to why I'm using that. I'm explaining that in the video. I'm showing that in the showcase as well. There's actually a boss fight where I swap gems so you can see the difference. On paper, if you look in-game in your tooltip, there is a 50% damage difference between these two, but with the variables of overlap, arena size, monster hitbox, and all that kind of stuff, sometimes this seems to be doing equal damage at just way more coverage. So for me, I don't even gem swap anymore, I just use this. If you do like an Arbiter or a Breach Boss or something, sure, swap. The Conk effect and Lightning Infusion over the Reach and Magnified effect, those are the things you change. For Voltaic Mark, we're using Persistence to make it last as long as possible, and the idea here is to just give more chance to shock and more effective shock on the marked enemy. That's what gets us to that high 45% shock you saw in the showcase video. Overwhelming Presence for lowering ailment threshold on the monsters. Tame Beast, as we say in the notes, it's going to be a quadrilla that we fished. You can check the previous video on my YouTube channel on how to do that. And it's going to give us that haste aura, which is that nice little boost to pretty much action speed. I'm still looking into like a basic attack to add some exposure or something like that. The lightning infusion and concentrated effect you see in here are not used in the crossbow shot. They are just used as a placeholder, so we don't need to have them in the inventory. So when I do make a swap, I can just 1-to-1 swap both. That's why they're there, right? So don't think we use this as a attack. It's just there to gem swap. The nodes that we have. I have placed a couple of leveling guides because people are going to ask you, how did you level? Do not ask. I took the hard route because I wanted to, and it looked absolutely atrocious, and we just kind of dredged through the slogfest that was this league's early leveling process. But there are some really decent leveling guides for warriors. I've put them here, 3 different content creators, 3 different guides. I'm sure there's something there that you like and you enjoy. So check it out. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel there. This will help you level either to a high level or to level 31, which is pretty much when this picks up. More about that when we go into the skill tree section. So we said it before, we've got some damage scaling options, right? We got gem level scaling, which is the by far most important thing you have. Just like with Shockwave Totem and any other totem, gem level scaling is where it's at. Although the scaling per level has gone down quite a bit. It's about 8 to 10% per level, no longer 15%-ish per level. You can scale +3, +7, and +3 on Prism of Belief. Well, good luck with that, right? That's just hard to get. So the other one is elemental damage with attacks scaling, weapon mod, very important that you do that. You can get up to like 100 to 130%. Attack speed on everything except your weapon. If you get attack speed on your weapon, it doesn't count because the skill uses its own weapon. It's the typical totem way of PoE 2. Then there's totem damage, area damage, attack damage, damage with 200 weapons, crossbows, projectile damage, and depending on whether you go for the elemental types that we've described in the video, this PoB is for lightning only, you could go for fire damage, cold damage, and lightning damage. You can get that on the tree, rings, and on your jewels as well. As you can see, you also want the 30% elemental damage course in your weapon. And then last but not least, guys, we have our quadrilla, our nice big boy with a haste aura, increasing our damage quite a bit as well, and our movement speed. So this is just mandatory, I think, for any build right now. Just put it on there and you're gonna feel so much better. It's super nice. Now, the crazy amount of regeneration that we have on our build, which is 25% of our total life pool regenerated per second, or a little bit over actually. We are getting that from obviously the Ascendancy, that's a 5% there. We have 20% recovery rate on our helmet as a corruption. up to a maximum of 2.5 on your armor. Needs to be an ornate plate base, obviously, and you want to go for a 3 OS corruption. Try to corrupt that yourself, it's probably going to be cheaper than just buying it. And then, I'm sad to say that the percent of life regenerated per second got removed from both helmets and rings in 0.2.0. So don't val your rings trying to get the regen on it, because... And the rest of your regeneration comes from the tree. So, a couple of things I already said. We've got some cost reductions and gambles that you can do. The difference between a +6 crossbow with elemental damage around 100% and a +7 is 3 to 4 divines extra. For 1 div, you've got a +6. For 4 to 5 div, you got a +7 at the making of this guide. That is a 10% damage difference at 5 times the price, pretty much. The difference between a +2 or a +3 good amulet is also 3 to 4 divines extra. So if you're on a budget, the 1 div version will definitely do, and you could even go for like a +1 version, or a couple of Exiles probably. I advise you try to recombine a +6 or a +7 with another one that has 100% ally damage to attacks, which could very well be cheaper. It's a bit of a gamble. It's up to you whether you want to do that gamble, but you could definitely make, I've seen people in the Discord, in my Discord, do that. You could definitely make something cheaper than the buy price right now. So for gear section, I'm not going to read all of this again. A couple of things I do want to read is the runes. So for runes, you're going to be using a greater desert rune to hit 240% fire res if you want to hit 90 all res, like we just showed. Or 200% if you want to hit 89, 90, 90, if setting it up exactly like I just showed you and like I'm going to show you in the tree. So all the other runes are going to be greater body runes, 40% max life, or if you're willing to spend 30 times the price, which is legit what it is, you could put one of those 2% maximum life cores at really marginal improvements in there. It's up to you whether you think that's worth it. Under the items I've also put optional Val Slams, so you can see what you can get there. For the amulet, something I want to get into is your anoint. So Colossal Weapon, 15% AoE, very nice with +10 to strength, which is going to help you a lot with a little bit extra life, but the AoE is just really feel good. Then we got Catalysis, very expensive. It is 5% of physical damage taken as a random element, but it's a really expensive anoint. We already have 25% taken on the Ascendancy. So then we have Acceleration, which is skill speed and movement speed, which is a nice one. And we have Frazzled. Now Frazzle is interesting because it gives you 30% increased shock magnitude. Which one you take is up to you. I've tested this one and I've tested this one. Personally, I just go for Colossal Weapon because I want to rain down hellfire everywhere. That's the whole thing. Hard to kill, guys. The easy regen node that we used to have right over here got removed. You can no longer anoint that, sadly. It wasn't in the notes anywhere, but it just got removed. Same thing goes for this one and this one are no longer anointable. So that's pretty much it for the gear. Let's go to the tree. There are a couple of things you're gonna notice. There is a heavy emphasis on AoE here, here, and here. And there is a heavy emphasis on attack speed. Here, here, and here. Now, why do I do that? The attack speed gives you the coverage you really want to have. Coverage is absolutely nice to have. It's gonna help you just clear those maps like you saw in the showcase footage, where you just mosey your way through the middle and left and right everything is just dying. That coverage is just way too good. Now this is the level 93, which should be doable for most players to get. But we've also made quite a few other trees, starting actually at your possible transition point of level 31, which is the minimum level for you to use your ballista totem. You can just check these trees and follow them. You can transition at a later point as well if you feel the build you're using to level your warrior is better than the transition point that you see here. Just know that at this level you gain access to your ballista, and we've made sure you have +1 by following this tree. The next one is still pre-blood magic. That means we are still casting with mana. This would be the next tree. And as you can see, we don't really yet have totem placement speed. It's up to you whether you want the totem placement speed nodes or the damage nodes. It all depends on the gear you have, if you have a couple of levels on the crossbow already, all that kind of good stuff. But just know you can swap those nodes for damage at any time if you feel you don't suffer from clunk. If you do feel you suffer from clunk, just take the totem placement speed nodes instead. So at level 50 you can see we are rushing blood magic because it becomes extremely annoying for us to get our hands on mana regen, right? And just keep clicking that mana flask, it's super annoying. We are now focusing a lot more on life regen, life regen. By now we already have the first Ascendancy done. I'm gonna talk a little bit about Ascendancy order in a sec as well. To have that blood magic and just regenerate any cost of your skills and just spam those totems at your heart's content. Which is what everybody wants, right? The high costs are ridiculous, but hey, this is a way to circumvent the issue. Another thing we're taking here obviously is Resolute Technique. While in the beginning of your leveling process you don't really suffer from missing the enemy too much, it is something you want to put in there anyway because you are going to be using reach support, and reach support means less accuracy. Which doesn't matter with Resolute Technique. So as soon as you socket in reach support, this is going to be mandatory. Keep that in mind, guys. So at level 61 we start really branching into the AoE, right? So that's 10 more levels and there's a lot of more AoE here, a lot more AoE here, a little bit more strength for the life scaling, all that kind of stuff. But we keep the tree as compact as we can possibly keep it. A lot of AoE, a lot of overlap, feel good. At the level 72 tree we are getting towards that scaling of safety, right? You're mapping, you're dying or not, right? Depends. So I felt going for more resistances, this was the point to start doing that. So we added the resistances here, we added the resistances here. It's going to help you a lot. You're also going to need more stats, right? You want to have that quadrilla. By now you've been farming, fishing that in accordance with the last video I've uploaded. So just make sure you have the stats, the dexterity to actually equip that. A little bit more attack speed scaling starting here as well. It's going to help you too. And then from the next tree, 380, as you can see, more attack speed added. And a couple of other things as well. Now keep in mind this tree is not set in stone. It's what I've been using, it's what helped me a lot in running, but there are quite a few of points of contention. Go for attack speed versus go for damage. We've got damage with crossbows, which helps your damage. We've got projectile damage. We could go lightning damage. So there's a lot of things that you can swap around. For me personally, the feeling of having these totems attack as fast as they possibly can, combined with a very, very high AoE overlap, makes the build feel good. I'm gonna forego a little bit on potential numbers and more on just the feel and the flow of the skill. What you do is up to you, right? But this is just kind of how I set this up. And that brings us to that 93 with the 4 jewels. So let's take a little bit of a look at the Ascendancy of the Smith of Kitava and what order you're going to be taking. Now in the end, if you have enough fire resistance and everything, it's going to be very simple. You have the max fire ras right here, Gold Stoker, Forged in Flame, and you're going to be 90 ras with the tree set up like we've shown you. But it's not all that simple while leveling. In fact, my first Ascendancy, I didn't mess with any of this. All I took was the 15% increased maximum life and the 5% regeneration rate. That's all I took, because I felt none of the other Ascendancies we've played before had some resistances, so the ability to gain that life and that regen helped a lot with surviving. But once I got to the second Ascendancy, all of a sudden that changed, because I got access to Gold Stoker combined with Tantalum Alloy, which means I could remove my Kitavan engraving, my life, for the resistances for 37.5 all res, which I felt was better value. So all of a sudden I swapped out of this into that, but I kept my regen. For the third Ascendancy, you can take Forged in Flame, but it's useless, because you're not yet scaling max resistances. So what we did is take back the 15% life that we have here, and we took 20% increased strength for some extra life. That's what I did personally, but you can swap things around if you deem that necessary. Now once you have the fourth Ascendancy, all of a sudden you're going to remove your strength and you're going to instead go for the 25% of physical damage the hits taken as fire damage, which is a 25% physical mitigator right there. And you're obviously going to couple your Forged in Flame with your flowing metal to get that max fire res. Now all this depends obviously on if you are already grabbing these nodes, yes or no, how important that is for you, because you might already have these nodes taken and it might be valuable for you to take Forged in Flame as a third one anyway. But usually you're not going to get around to those nodes until late into level 70, like we've shown in these trees as well. So it's a bit of a complicated process, but yeah, that's how I set it up for me. Just a quick look at the configuration. We're gonna see that what we've done here, well, we had to import, like we said, all the nodes from Smith of Kitava. That wasn't in there. Once we get that update, just remove all these nodes and it should show. We've taken 30% increased charm charges gained from the Valley of Titans Act 2, 30% elemental threshold, 15% life recovery from flasks. Like we said, flasks are actually decently good value right now. And we've taken obviously the 10% to chaos resistance, because chaos resistance is going to be needed to survive, and obviously what you want to do there is you want to make sure that you have that resistance as high as possible. which can be expensive on your gear. So don't forego on this. One last thing, guys, I'm gonna put this link of this PoB under the video description and in the pinned comment. Do not click the link, but import the link into PoB through import, link, import build, import. Don't click the link because you're gonna not have all these nodes and all the stuff that is in this PoB. So that's a fair heads up. Alright guys, before we leave we need to give thanks to a couple of people here for their suggestions, for their help and their input. First of all, FabJam suggesting the reach support and magnifact combo. It is that crazy AoE you see in the video that is helping us absolutely demolish maps. Thank you very much for that, buddy. Algarox for shock gloves, the lightning convert idea that helped us get to the high level of shock that we have right now on the build and probably the highest damage that we can scale. Thanks very much, buddy. Turtle for added voltaic mark, helping us for higher shock, and many other suggestions. He's one of our better build testers as well. Always good on the feedback. Appreciate you, buddy. Immortal Nemo for proof viewing some of the footage before I released it, and obviously a reluctance for being found, it's in the name, guys. Big Renag for proof view, proofreading the guide as well and for his suggestions, and OmniSlim's YouTube channel for the awesome free tunes. Guys, check out that YouTube channel. It's a small channel, but he makes some amazing music and you can use it for free on your stream or under your videos as well. And obviously, guys, thanks to the entire community. Everybody's been amazing, good feedback, everybody is hands-on engaging. Guys, you guys are amazing. We really do have the best community, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this kind of stuff, please leave a thumbs up. Please follow the YouTube channel. Find me on Twitch live as well, or on Discord. I'll leave a link in the video description. Guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'm gonna see you guys on the next one. Have a good one, guys.